Admit it, you expected your guests to act like you. You expected cleaners to be professional, contractors to be honest, hot tubs to just work. Now you've realized it's not all sunshine and 5-star reviews. That means you're in the right place. This is the community where we talk about the gross, awkward, and the operational messes, as well as the real strategies that help you keep going instead of quitting. Because you are not a quitter. And there's nothing wrong with this industry. This is bigger than bookings. It's about building something real, something sustainable, something your kids can be proud of. Welcome to STR Problems, Strong Solutions. Let's get into today's question. I have an email here from Mark. He says, "Hi, Jeremiah. My property manager wants me to allow pets in my rental, and I'm allergic. So I want to say no. When I discussed this with her, she told me it will have a huge impact on the revenue. I want the house to cover its expenses like mortgage, taxes, and HOA dues, but I also want to use it without having the trouble of breathing or worse. What should I tell her so she will drop it and exclude pets? Thanks, Mark." Well, Mark, this is a big topic for me. I'm not going to try and convince you of anything. Um, I'll go through a couple of questions that I would ask if you were live on the call, and what's likely to be your answer to those questions if you were here. I'm also going to give you some practical advice on what you can say in order to iron things out with your property manager. And I'd like you to give some of these questions some real thought. Maybe send me another email with some answers to them. So first off, what do you think it would cost to get the house cleaned before your stay so that your allergies are not affected? I mean, think about it. Before you bought the house, there might have been pets in there. So what did you do yourself to stay at that house without being affected by allergies? I mean, it's not like the real estate was put up for sale and it says pet-free home, like it was, excluded pets for the previous 10 years or so. You were buying a house that could have had a cat in it or could have had a house or a dog in it recently. So something had to be done. You bought the property. You're in there now. You're comfortable now. What did you do in order to get it to be, I want to say, kind of allergy free? So why can't that be done again? What are some things that could be done in order to get it to be allergy free before you arrive? Because maybe there's a way for you to allow pets and still be able to breathe comfortably without having some sort of reaction. Second question, what are some other ways to allow guests with pets and still minimize the impact to your health and your home? I would say number one, pet-proof your home. So any carpets, soft surfaces, you're going to want to put in hard surface flooring. If there are area rugs, perfectly fine, because those can be taken outside and shaken, or they can be rolled up and stowed away. Things like that could be done. Also consider filtration. Filtration is very reasonable. If you have a heating and air conditioning system that forces air throughout your house, you can put special HEPA filters on those or you can build those in. I've seen filters that are 3 inches wide instead of the 1-inch standard ones. And those are the type of thing that can help eliminate dander from the air before you arrive. So another thing is a vacuum. If you get a vacuum with a special filter on it, a special HEPA filter, then that'll actually clean the air as you're pulling dander out of the carpets, out of the area rugs and things like that. You can also vacuum the entire house with something like that, and it'll pull up all the hair and other things that might cause a reaction. The third thing that you can use as far as filtration goes is an automatic filter. I really like these. And about a year ago, there were some fires in Canada. So there was a haze everywhere and there was smoke outside. And you can kind of smell it and it looked weird. And everybody kind of knew that being outside was not really healthy. But I was really proud of the fact that I already had an air filtration system in my house that could clean and scrub the air constantly. The Levoit is one that I recommend. I'm going to put a link in the show notes in the description so that you can check that one out, the one that I recommend. We have probably 6 or 7 of these. So I've got spare filters sitting all over the place. I found that the lowest cost of use is focusing on the filters and how easy it is to get. The replacement filters for my Levoit, they last 6 months. They come Amazon ship. So it's simple and easy for me to replace these. So it runs automatically and it'll get pet dander out of the air. So you can research and you can find a filter like that that will help to keep the air clean even while pets are in the home, runs automatically, doesn't get turned off. And these are units that are less than $300, and then the filters are less than $60 and last 6 months, $10 a month. And essentially, and you've got something that can keep you from having difficulty breathing, and you can still allow pets. Some other things about pet proofing your home are having the right supplies. So, it's going to sound crude, but poop bags. I don't know what else to call them. Those little green rolls that you can put underneath a kitchen sink that are biodegradable. Those are meant for picking up after your pets. And having things like that, or a leash, or a dog bowl, or a dog run that's permanently built in your yard, or having a house that's fenced. Those are all things that you can use to pet proof your home or to make it like a little more pet friendly. It also means that the dog is more likely to go outside if it's easier for the guest to put that dog outside. Now, if they're not putting the dog outside often enough, then you're more likely to get accidents that happen inside the home, which leads me to my next point. Crates, cleaning products, furniture covers, and a dog bed. These are all things that combined all together, you're going to have guests that take care of your property a lot better than if they did not have these tools. The other thing is, this is like a starter pack for any dog owner that already has a pet at home, is they want to have these things. Now, if they travel with that pet, they should be packing this stuff themselves. But what if they don't and they don't have it? Now they don't have a bag to pick up the poop and you're going to be having to deal with that. They don't have a leash. They're not going to take their dog on walks. If there's not a safe place to put their dog for a little while it does its business, then, like a dog run, all these things need to be considered. If the weather's bad, then they're not likely to take it out with a leash. Furniture covers are things that, if they know that their dog sheds, most guests don't want to cause too much of a mess. So you can ask them to put the covers on the couch. That way they feel comfortable. Now, another thing is a lot of dogs like to sit on the bed or like to sit on the couch. And you can have covers for that, or you could have a designated dog bed. Some dogs are used to having this. They can be trained to use it. And in some cases, they will be trained when they get to your rental. So, third question. Did you know that 80% of Gen Z pets are considered emotional support? Now, this emotional support animal thing is a very hot topic, and I'm not here to give legal advice, but here's my opinion. You cannot treat somebody who's disclosed that they have an emotional support animal, you can't treat them any differently than all of your other guests. So if you see on your Ring camera that they've got a Chihuahua in the front yard, they're probably just breaking the rules. It's probably not an emotional support animal. But if it is an emotional support animal, you can't treat them any differently. You actually almost have to make the assumption it's an emotional support animal. But what are they going to do as soon as you point out, as the host, hey, I'm watching you. I'm looking at my camera live and I can see you've got a Chihuahua out there. How do you think your guest is going to react to that? I think it's creepy to give the guest any impression that you've been watching them. I think the best use of the camera is just to make sure that things are going on the way they should be, but not to actually reference that you were watching it. Goodness gracious, that's a whole nother topic. But if you see a Chihuahua out there and your guest says, oh, sorry, but not sorry because it's an emotional support animal, what are you going to do? You've got allergies. What are you going to do? Now you're going to ask your cleaners to do a deep clean, or you're going to go there yourself with your allergies and you're going to clean up so that you feel comfortable the next time you arrive. I'd much rather you just pet proof your house and allow pets. But hey, I'm not here to convince you of anything. I've got no skin in the game. I'm just saying. Something like 60% of Gen Z, which are like 20 somethings, have a pet. Of those people who have a pet, 80% call it an emotional support animal. So, question 4: what type of renters, good or bad, do you think will rent your house anyway and just say, oh, I know my rights, and come with their emotional support animal anyway? I think those are the worst kind of renters. The ones who say, I know my rights. I know it says pet free. I'm going to go anyway. We managed a house for a woman, wonderful woman, beautiful home, but she said no pets allowed. She was worried about her floors. And because she has a grandchild that is highly allergic, and she wanted to make sure that, she didn't have to clean up after her pets. Emotional support animal showed up and she started freaking out. And she felt like she had to do all this extra work, but there was no pet fee. There was no money for the extra work. But she still had to go there and do all that extra cleaning or ask her cleaner to take care of it. If she had just charged a pet fee, most likely she would have gotten somebody who was willing to pay the pet fee. She could have made an extra $100, and that extra $100 would have covered the additional cleaning that she was expecting her cleaner to do in order for it to be, allergy free for her grandchild, which is not even somebody who was scheduled to come the next week. It's just something that she was worried about. Was there any damage due to the pet? No. But if there had been, what you going to do? You're going to process a claim just like you would have anyway on Airbnb. If the pet was allowed or if the pet wasn't allowed, it's still the same exact claim. You're not protecting yourself by saying no pets. The damage is going to happen one way or the other. The difference is the renters that you're dealing with are going to be put in a terrible state of mind when you point out that you can see they have a pet there and they have to make a claim or lie to you and say it's an emotional support animal. Because guess what? There's no documentation for it. There's numerous websites where you can pay $10 and get a certification that you're an emotional support animal. But if it's a legitimate emotional support animal that was prescribed by like a psychiatrist, there's no prescription. You can't ask for it. There's no documentation. You can't ask for that either. And they get the same status as a blind person with a seeing eye dog. Now, let me ask you, would you tell a blind person that they can't rent your house because they have a seeing eye dog and you're allergic? No, that's discrimination. It's clear-cut discrimination. And if somebody has a legitimate need for something to help them be mentally stable, why do you want them come to your house without being mentally stable? You're setting yourself up for failure, in my opinion. Again, it's my opinion on emotional support animals. And there's nothing that you can do to stop them from coming. Saying that your house is pet free or putting in the description that the homeowner is highly allergic is not going to guilt them into not coming. What you're doing is you're screening out the good renters that have pets and you're bringing in only the bad renters who have pets. And guess what? In order to get the same occupancy, you're going to have to lower your rates. That's just basic economics. You are not increasing demand for the small population that has allergies. It's not like a niche that you're going to fill because there's not enough of them, in my experience. And lastly, on that topic, in my experience, when you allow pets, most pet owners don't pull the emotional support card. They just pay the fee because they don't want that friction. They don't want to lie to you or tell you the truth. They don't want to tell you that it's an emotional support animal. They just pay the fee, which is, I've seen $60, I've seen $100. I've got one property I manage, it's $400. And people are paying it because they want to bring their animal with them. If they actually have an emotional support animal, most of the time they'll pay that fee anyway because they want to make sure that they're not ruffling any feathers. Those are good renters. Somebody who's willing to pay an extra $60 just so they can bring Fido, bring them on. I like those renters. I'll pay that $60 to the cleaning service so that they can clean the house after that renter leaves and make sure that I'm going to feel comfortable there with my allergies. Question number 5. Did you know there's a ton of nice rentals in every marketplace that do not allow pets? You could consider renting them for your personal use with the money that you make from renting out your house that week instead of using it yourself. They're priced very low because there's weak demand for pet-free rentals. We can call this a replacement theory, right? So if you use your rental for personal use, it's not costing you nothing. I know that sounds weird as a double negative. It's actually costing you something. It's costing you the missed rent for, whoever was going to rent it. You're not going to be getting that rent from them. The second thing is it still has to be cleaned. Even if you clean it yourself, there's still an expense there for your labor. So you've missed out on the opportunity. And if you were to stop excluding guests with pets, your nightly rate would go higher anyway. So allowing pets versus not allowing pets. If you allow them, your rate goes higher. If you don't allow them and you use the house, you might think that you're only giving up $129 for that Friday night. But if you were allowing pets, you might be getting $229 for that Friday night. So that's what you're actually giving up by using it personally. So the cost of using your rental yourself goes up because the value of your rental goes up. So instead, consider renting another house. There's gorgeous homes out there where the homeowners have not considered these questions or have considered these questions and still determined that they're wanting to rent out their home pet-free. You can rent one of those and you can ask the host beforehand, have there been any animals in the home over the last 6 months? Is the house deep cleaned before I get there? I'm highly allergic. And they'll say, yes. They'll say, yes, the home is pet free. There haven't been any animals to my knowledge in the last 6 months. Guess what? You can go there. Mark, you can use their house without worrying about, having trouble breathing because those are true pet free homes and they're discounted so that they can still get booked. And, you could still go on vacation even in the marketplace you want to. Replacement theory, or at least that's what I'm going to call it. Number 6. Now, the dynamic between your property manager and you seems to be less than ideal. Is there a difference in expected outcome? It seems like your property manager wants the rent to be higher while you're comfortable with it being lower. Have you considered that maybe they have a perspective that you don't? Like maybe they were expecting when they onboarded your property, maybe they're expecting to make $3,000 a month, in which case their portion, their commission, their PM fee would be 20 to 30% of that. But now that you're not allowing pets and it's going to be $1,000 a month, they're making a third of what they would have otherwise with the same amount of work. Maybe you should consider that they think it's going to make a huge difference and you think it's going to make a very small difference. Have you considered increasing either your percentage or your minimum commission to your property manager to get them to be okay with a pet restriction? If you don't want to do that, just remember it's a partnership. Your relationship with your property manager should have similar incentives, right? So the whole reason why commissions are a thing is because if they can get your rent higher, then they increase their income. You guys have similar incentives. But if you want the rent to be lower and you want to balance that with, it being allergy free, that's something that you should get them to understand at the outset, at the beginning, so that they don't have expectations when they're running their numbers of success if they're not going to have success. And before you say, well, I think the house can be more successful as a pet-free rental, you're absolutely wrong. I'm sorry. There's not a market for pet-free rentals. There just isn't. If there is, it's much, much smaller than the supply of pet-free rentals. I've never, ever had somebody contact me as a property manager and ask me if I have any pet-free homes available for them to rent. Not even once. I have had people looking for a 29-night stay and say, I want a house that has hard surfaces that can be thoroughly cleaned before we arrive. I'm willing to pay for that, and can I get a discount? I've seen that, but I've never found somebody who says, I'm looking for a place that is exclusively pet free because I'm allergic or my daughter is allergic or, whatever. That's very rare. Question number 7. If guests are going to come to your house with pets anyway, why not be prepared by pet proofing your house and make some money from it? They're going to come either way. Why not allow them to come? In one situation, they're calling an emotional support animal and you don't make any extra money. In the other situation, you make an extra $100, $200, and that's something that you can pay your rental cleaners in order to allergy free the house. And they're disclosing it. Most of the time, they don't pull the emotional support animal card just so they can save $100. They usually pay that. So the first question was, what do you think it's going to take to get the house to be, allergy free? And it's probably going to cost you less than $100 if you invest in those types of systems to keep it from getting too bad, like filtration, hard surface flooring, cleaning solutions. And by that, I don't mean like chemicals. I mean like solutions like air purifiers or an ozone generator. Although I'm not sure that that would help with pets. That would just help with the smell of pets. And usually when somebody's allergic to a pet, it's because of things like dander. Lastly, the solution. Approaching your property manager. This is what I would suggest. Ask what they project the income to be with pets allowed, and what they project the income to be with pets not allowed. That way you can get an idea of how much this affects them. Ask if they will be required to do extra work because of your exclusion. So are you expecting them, or do they think that you're expecting them to police your renters to make sure that there's no pause walking through that house while there's renters there? Because if they think they have to do extra work because of it, but they actually make less money, then you can understand where there might be some friction, right? And ask what you can do to make them okay with your preference. Adding a flat fee on the monthly commission, or maybe sending them an email just saying that you accept that the property is not going to perform very well. Like sometimes your property manager is just concerned that they're going to be judged when you feel let down by the performance of your property. Like the relationship between your property manager and you doesn't have to be a negative experience. They should be somebody who has your best interests in mind. They should be somebody whose values and incentives are aligned with yours. So look through your relationship with them, your contract with them. Make sure that there's no opportunities for them to make money where you're not also making money. That anything that they're incentivized to do also benefits you. That's a good rule of thumb for a property manager if you're going to use one. And then lastly, if you try this approach with your property manager where you're trying to understand genuinely where they're coming from and it doesn't seem to work, maybe you need to manage the property yourself. There's some really good tools out there that can enable you to manage yourself. You can even go through Airbnb and find a co-host. And that co-host is just some random person who's a host on Airbnb that can help you answer your guests. And maybe they take a percentage, but usually that's the thing that causes people to not self-manage. Usually it's just that they're not always available to answer the guests, but the guests want an answer right away. The other time is the right time to definitely have a property manager is when you're scaling and you've got 3 or 4 or 5 homes that you've got to juggle and you want them to be successful. So you need to take your eyes off of the day-to-day answering questions from your guests and focus them on growth, right? Then it becomes part of your team. So if today's episode felt a little too familiar, you're not alone. These are the problems no one talks about when they sell the dream of easy passive income, but they're exactly the problems that make or break your operation. If you've got a situation you want to share, then please email your question or reach out if you'd be open to calling into the show. Your problem might be the next one we break down, and chances are you'll help a lot of other hosts in the process too. If this episode helped you, share it with other hosts who are in the trenches. That's how we make the industry better. I'd also love to see you follow us on TikTok at Galvanized Investments, Facebook and YouTube at Galvanized Management, and lastly, my blog on jeremiahknoll.com. Until next time, stay steady, keep learning, and keep building something real. This is STR Problems, Strong Solutions.